bright on Saturday. Look at this, 4-5 degrees. Most of us haven't seen that for a good few days. It's going to turn milder still on Sunday. This area of low pressure is moving in. It's bringing milder air, but it's also bringing strong winds and, for a time, on Sunday, some heavy snow.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by two of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Deebs & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prison.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton Tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Lawrence Fox, on GB News. Frank, fun, fearless and sometimes serious. Much as I love a Friday night punch-up, what I really want is a battle of ideas. I want to look at things differently. I want to hear different voices and engage with your unique experiences. Every Friday at 7 p.m. on GB News.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and tune-in apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
No spin, no bias, no censorship. I'm Dan Wootton. Tonight, she was too popular, he was too revolutionary. So, of course, the monarchy and the entire British press just had to conspire to take them down. Harry and Meghan's latest fantasy of victimhood would be laughable if it didn't contain one of their most damning allegations yet, that Prince William bullied them out of the royal family.
It was terrifying to have my brother scream and shout at me and my father say things that just simply weren't true.
I'll give my first reaction to the climax of Harry and Meghan's Netflix hate campaign next. Then I'll get the verdict of my superstar panel. Carol McGiffin, Sean Bailey and Amy Nicole. I'll also speak to the figures at the heart of the drama throughout the night. At 9:35, Meghan's estranged sister Samantha Markle and royal insider lady Colin Campbell weigh in on whether Harry and Meghan's relationship with the Windsors and the Markles is done for good. At 10:15, the man who's been documenting the war between the Sussexes and the royals from the start, Tom Bower, explains why Princess Diana would be ashamed of Harry for lashing out at his brother. Plus, are the Sussexes right to shift the blame for Harry's exit from the royal family off of Meghan?
When a guy falls in love with a girl, his buddies are like, oh my God, he changed. I don't see him anymore. He's always...
TV hardman Ant Middleton isn't so sure he's uncancelled on this at 10:45. Do the Sussexes deserve accountability and an apology from King Charles and Prince William over Megxit, as suggested by Harry? Royal biographer Angela Levin takes on author and broadcaster Nikki Hodgson in tonight's clash, and I'll get your all-important verdict too. And do you believe our late Queen really worried about Meghan stealing the limelight from her? That's our big debate at 10. Plus, after hospital leaders warn nurses are planning longer walkouts that could impact end-of-life care, is the Daily Mirror wrong to declare on its front page that opponents of the historic strikes are not decent people? We'll thrash that out in the media buzz at 10:30. Political firebrand Anne Widdecombe takes on nurses too over their, quote, irresponsible actions. And I'll bring you some dynamite newspaper front pages the moment they drop, hot off the press, and a brand new Greatest Britain and Union jackass before the night is out too. This is Dan Wootton Tonight. Let's go. So Harry and Meghan have revealed their truth today, but tonight I give you the real story. That's coming up in just a moment. First, the news with Tamsin Roberts.
Dan, thank you. Good evening from the GB newsroom. Rail strikes will still go ahead tomorrow after talks failed to resolve a dispute over pay, jobs and conditions. The 48-hour walkout by members of the RMT union will severely disrupt services across the UK, with some areas having no trains at all. 14 rail companies will be affected, including Network Rail. Passengers are being urged to travel only if necessary. Tens of thousands of nurses have been taking part in the biggest strike in NHS history today. Picket lines were set up in England, Wales and Northern Ireland in the first of two 12-hour walkouts over pay. Staff have been providing some urgent care, but routine surgery and other planned treatment was disrupted. Meanwhile, ground baggage handlers at Heathrow Airport have suspended planned strike action after receiving an improved pay offer. More than 400 staff members had been set to begin a 72-hour walkout tomorrow morning. The Unite union says it will now ballot its members, and other planned industrial action remains in place pending the outcome. The Prime Minister is making his first trip to Northern Ireland since taking office. Tonight, he's expected to host informal talks with political leaders in an attempt to end Stormont suspension. Rishi Sunak will also use the trip to promote the government's investment in shipbuilding in Belfast. He says the deal to build Royal Navy support vessels will create thousands of high-value jobs. The 4 boys who died after falling into a frozen lake in Solihull have been named by West Midlands Police. 8-year-old Finlay Butler, his 6-year-old brother Samuel and their cousin, 11-year-old Thomas Stewart, were taken to hospital where they died on Monday. The 4th child, who reportedly tried to save the others, has been named as Jack Johnson, aged 10. The families say they are devastated by the loss of the boys in such tragic circumstances. The royal family have gathered at Westminster Abbey this evening for a Christmas carol service hosted by the Princess of Wales and attended by the King. Just a warning for those watching on television, the following footage contains flashing images. The Together at Christmas concert was attended by nearly 2,000 people in a service to recognise the selfless efforts of individuals and families. The royal family put on a united front just hours after the second instalment of Harry and Meghan's controversial Netflix docuseries was released. TV, online and DAB+ radio, this is GB News. Now, it's back to Dan.
I hope it was worth the money, Harry, because today, for the Netflix millions and to impress your narcissistic, delusionist wife and her sycophantic, fake Hollywood celebrity pals, you have destroyed any chance of ever having a relationship again with your brother. You have let down your late mother, Princess Diana, who assured William he would always have the support of his little bro, his best friend for many years. You have trampled on the memory and life's work of the late Queen, who put family unity and the monarchy ahead of personal contentment for 70 years. But most of all, actually, you have let down the British public, who backed you, who stood by you, who celebrated your wedding, who adored your new wife, and who supported the positive impact you wanted to make on the world. And why? Because you're so bitter for being part of a hereditary monarchy where your brother was always going to take the throne, but you got all the trappings of a life of great privilege and unthinkable opportunity without the responsibility. Because your deranged campaign against journalists means you believe taking on a public role is all one-way traffic, and true stories about your wife's bullying of palace staff should be covered up as if we're living in North Korea. And I think actually because you're both deeply unhappy individuals in a toxic relationship who look to bring each other down rather than lift each other up. You cut out friends and family members who dare to challenge your mad decisions. But the most tragic of all has to be using your Netflix orgy of distortion and victimhood to publicly brand to the world your brother, your own brother who has sacrificed so much for his public duty and stood by you through scandal after scandal. You branded him a man who bullied you out of the royal family while refusing to address the actual claims of bullying by your wife. Watch.
I mean, the saddest part of it was this wedge created between myself and my brother so that he's now on the institution side. And I get, part of that I understand, right? That's his inheritance. That day, a story that came out saying that part of the reason why Meghan and I were leaving was because William had bullied us out. And once I got in the car after the meeting, I was told about a joint statement that had been put out.
A sign of public unity from the brothers, who issued a joint statement calling the report false, offensive, and potentially harmful.
I couldn't believe it. No one had asked me. No one had asked me permission to put my name to a statement like that. Within 4 hours, they were happy to lie to protect my brother. And yet, for 3 years, they were never willing to tell the truth to protect us.
But he doesn't stop at his brother. Harry also attacked King Charles and the late Queen for their conduct during the private Sandringham summit.
It was terrifying to have my brother scream and shout at me and my father say things that just simply weren't true, and my grandmother, you know, quietly sit there and sort of take it all in.
And Harry even suggests his father leaked the story of Megxit to me.
They're blocking you from seeing the Queen, but really what they're doing is blocking a grandson from seeing his grandmother.
Later that afternoon, we found out that this story was coming out. Somehow the tabloids knew about this proposal. It became clear that the institution leaked the fact that we were going to be moving back to Canada. And the key piece of that story that made me aware that the contents of the letter between me and my father had been leaked was that we were willing to relinquish our Sussex titles. That was the giveaway. And I was like, wow, like our story, our life literally got taken from underneath us.
Well, sorry to disappoint you, Harry. I had the story before you sent the email to your dad. So once again, your claims, not backed up by any evidence, do not stand the truth test. Now, after their Netflix treachery, the Sussexes have lost the respect of the British public. Heck, they are so out of touch. Here they are, trying to convince us that living in a luxurious cottage with servants within Kensington Palace is like being forced to stay in some sort of hovel.
As far as people were concerned, we were living at a palace, and we were in a cottage.
We were living on
palace grounds.
Yeah. Kensington Palace sounds very regal. Of course it does. It says palace in the name. But Nottingham Cottage, it was so small.
The whole thing's on a slight lean, really low ceiling, so I don't know who was there before. They must have been very short.
He would just hit his head constantly in that place because he's so tall. I don't think anyone could believe what it was actually like behind the scenes.
Well, Oprah came over for tea, didn't she?
She did.
And when she came in, she sat down, she goes, "No one would ever believe it."
No one would ever believe it.
2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a garden in Kensington with people cooking my meals every night. I'd take it. Look, I actually hope people watch this propaganda piece because it exposes Harry and Meghan for what they really are. I mean, they genuinely believe they were so popular, better members of the royal family, they say, than the late Queen, Charles, William and Kate, that Buckingham Palace conspired with the media to bring them down. Once again, there was no evidence, no proof presented, just the ridiculous ramblings of 2 paranoid people who have turned their back on the ones who really loved them, and the yes-men and women who surround them today, but are too scared to give them any form of reality check. If they weren't trying to bring down the royal family, I'd feel sorry for them. But to respond now, my superstar panel, the columnist and media personality, Carol McGiffin, the former Conservative London mayoral candidate, Sean Bailey, and the writer and broadcaster, Amy Nicole. McGiff. What do you say?
Oh, my God. I mean, it's completely breathtaking, isn't it? It's so... I think they're kind of acting out their own reality soap, if you like. I can't actually believe some of the things that they say. And they're presenting it as though it's fact without... And do you know what? And there are so many people that are not even questioning it and going, "Oh, isn't it amazing? Oh my God. Oh, I knew something was going on." I don't believe anything that they're saying. And look, I don't care if they tell their story. If they want to put it out there, they want to get $100 million, whatever it was, to do so. I don't care. And anyone who wants to watch it can watch it. But I won't be forced to watch it. And the only bits I've ever seen are the trailers and the clips that I get shown when I'm forced to talk about it.
So I was going to say, can we have a look at this? Because McGiffin actually features in Harry and Meghan. Let's have a little watch.
Prince Charles and Prince William were only sent a copy of Harry and Meghan's statement 10 minutes before it was released.
The Queen got surprised, as like all of us, was the fact that they announced it officially on Instagram.
This idea that I supposedly blindsided my grandmother, this would never happen. I have so much respect for her.
So Harry's very angry with you, Carol.
Oh, my God. Do you know what? I didn't even know I was in it, obviously. And I think Patrick Christie's from GBNews is in it as well.
He is indeed.
And they played it to me on Loose Women Today, and I thought they were talking about... They said, "Oh, you're in it." And I said, "I know, I'm in this show. I'm here. I'm right here right now." "No, you're in the show." Anyway, I said I might watch it now that I know I'm in it, but I still have no interest in these two. And the main reason for that is I do think they're trying to bring down the royal family, or they're trying to force the public to go against the royal family. And I think they've really underestimated the loyalty that the British people have towards the royal family.
And Sean Bailey, they're actually treating us for fools because that clip that features McGiff is actually really instructive because Carol states a fact, they announced it on Instagram, and Harry pops up to try and say, "This is ridiculous. We didn't ambush the Queen. You did. You announced it on Instagram before she was ready for you to do so."
I think, firstly, I'm jealous that I wasn't in it. Let's just say that. I think, look, the whole thing is now, people have
chosen their side. You're for them or against them, and that's it. You know me, I'm coming from the point of view I hope their family gets back together and it's all fine.
It's not going to happen now, though,
I've got to say...
He's called Prince William a bully.
I've got to say that looks very unlikely now, because some of the stuff in here is real personal stuff, saying that people are bullied, saying that people are lying and stuff like that. It's real personal stuff that I don't think will be easy to get past.
Yeah.
The one thing that I will say that I picked out that really stuck out to me was the cottage in the palace grounds. And I know
Sickening.
Listen, when me and my wife were married, we lived in a one-bedroom hovel.
Oh, yeah.
Full of damp. I remember one night the window fell out. I would have killed to live in the circumstances that he's living in.
With
and
servants,
I think that
by the way.
That's not the point.
With servants.
I think there's two things it does. What it shows a little bit of they haven't read the room. A lot of people who want to support them will be a bit offended by that. But the challenge will be, did the royal household have somewhere else they could have been?
Amy, can you really justify?
Amy, can you really justify them moaning about living in Kensington Palace?
They were saying, look, you all expected us to live in a palace because I'm the Prince of England and she's a really successful actress who's best
moderately
mates with
successful
Serena
actress.
Williams and flies all over the world and has absolutely pots of money. And they were saying, look, even though we've got all this money, we were actually here, and that's quite unusual. You didn't expect that, did you? That's all they were saying. They weren't moaning about it. They were saying it's not what you expect.
The fact that they brought it up.
You're not hearing it right.
I think no, because I hear it in a less loaded way. You want to hear it in the worst
hold on.
possible way.
Amy, let me put it to you. The fact that they brought it up.
Would you think a prince would live in that cottage?
Amy, the fact that they brought it up was them complaining.
Because you imagine they live in a palace.
Amy,
This is that whole
they
weren't being
think
humble.
they are better than us.
Yes.
That's what this comes down to. Yet at the same time, they want to be victims. They want us to feel sorry for them. But look, we're going to continue this conversation with you all night, so I'm looking forward to it. Amy Nicole, Sean Bailey, Carol McGiffin, who will be back soon. But coming up, is Harry and Meghan's relationship with the Windsors and the Markles over for good? Will Meghan's estranged sister Samantha Markle and royal author Lady Colin Campbell discuss the latest bombshells from the documentary at 9:35? But first, do the Sussexes deserve accountability and an apology from King Charles and Prince William over Megxit, as suggested by Harry? Royal biographer Angela Levin does battle with the broadcaster Nikki Hodgson straight after the break. But of course, I want your opinion. Dan at gbnews.uk if you want to have your say, or vote in our poll at GB News. The results and the clash coming up straight after the break.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Deems & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club. Oh my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions. I have no time for cultural totalitarianism. We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. B, I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other pay-per-review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
It's time for The Clash. Now, after slamming Prince William as a jealous bully and accusing the royal family of feeding lies to the press in Volume 2 of their Netflix atrocity, gutless Harry and Meghan still think it's them that deserve an apology.
Tell me about going back. What was that like?
It was hard, especially spending a time having chats with my brother and my father who just, were very much focused on the same misinterpretation of the whole situation. So none of us really wanted to have to talk about it at my grandfather's funeral, but we did. And, I've had to make peace with the fact that probably never going to get genuine accountability or a genuine apology.
Yeah, I think that's right. But what do you reckon? Do the Sussexes deserve accountability and an apology from King Charles and Prince William over Megxit? Email me, Dan at gbnews.uk. Vote in our poll at GB News. But going head-to-head on this now, Harry's biographer, Angela Levin, once close to the Duke, and the author and broadcaster, Nikki Hodgson. Angela Levin, can you believe that Harry thinks Charles owes him an apology? Surely it should be the other way around.
Yes, of course it is. I think this is a whole setup that he's been working on for years, actually. But let me first of all correct the thing about his home there. He lived there on his own before Meghan joined him. He wanted her to join him very quickly. So that's why it was small. And they then had £1.5 million spent on one of the flats in the palace, with umpteen bedrooms that they would move into. But when it was all ready, they decided they didn't want to live there. So they moved away from that. So it wasn't poor them. They're in the sort of lowest of the low within the palace. It was just, he wanted her to be with him as soon as possible. So she said it was lovely. She said they made chicken and they were so cozy. It was very nice. So they just changed what they feel about things. But this one, I think, we got hints in the first set of 3 programmes we saw last week, where he said he no longer believes in a hierarchy. I think that's one red light, danger here. The next one, he said that Meghan and I could do it much better than William and my father. So that's another red light. He wants to smash them. And I think it needs to be taken very seriously, because there can be one lunatic who feels, I like Harry, I like Meghan, let's see what I can do to help them.
And of course, Di Davies, the former Royal Protection Officer, has warned of the potential security risks being added to the serving royal family as a result of this Netflix documentary. Nikki Hodgson, do you think Harry and Meghan deserve an apology?
I don't think he's actually saying that he deserves an apology. I think what he was saying in kind of therapy speak, because, you know, he is very coded in that now, is that he has made peace with the fact that they are not going to agree on this matter and therefore is trying to move on, apart from having made this huge documentary. Look, I am not the biggest fan of Meghan, for sure, but I feel very sorry for Harry because he carries a very heavy psychological burden from what happened to his mother. And I think what is damning is the fact that the royal family allowed for there to be another woman in the royal family who was an outsider that came in that was substantially bullied by the press, potentially by people inside, and they didn't do enough to protect her.
Sorry, Nikki, I'm going to interrupt you there. I'll let you come back. But where is the evidence that she was bullied?
Well, the evidence from the coverage, the general coverage down in the tabloids, you know.
Did you not see the front page after front page when the wedding took place? Well, I just don't want you to misrepresent.
There was a clear point in which the tone of the coverage changed, and that's when people became aware that she wasn't just going to do the bidding of the royal family. The coverage of her when she was pregnant, always criticising her, touching her bump, eating avocados, doing all these dangerous things, you know. When you compare that to the coverage of Kate, it's nowhere near the same.
Rubbish.
It was obviously just prejudice against her. And
Angela Levin, do you buy this?
There was a picture of baby Archie in a christening gown, and then they went to the factory in India and found out where it had been sweatshopped. You know, it was absolute digging to stitch them up as deranged.
Angela Levin.
What is very interesting that I was invited to now King Charles's 70th birthday. It happened on the third day after Harry and Meghan got married. And one of the aides rang me and said they weren't coming, but they phoned up to say, can they come? We thought, great. And Harry said to her and to his father, we won't stay very long. We don't want to take all the limelight from you. Let us just come and we'll see a few people and wish you well. Anyway, he came. He made a lovely speech, Harry, saying at last he's understood his father and they're really good pals again. And then I was standing right next to them. And he came up and he said to Camilla, we're going to go now. Let you get on with it. Kiss, 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 cuddle, cuddle, cuddle. Off they went. And that was used as a thing when everything changed. They said they were thrown out. It's been going on for years. Nobody was thrown out. I was standing there. It's an absolute biggest lie you could have made. And that's what they do. They take something and they muddle it around and you come out with something entirely different.
Absolutely, because Nikki Hodgson, I just have to be very clear that there was virtually universal positive coverage of Harry and Meghan for a very long time, even after the marriage, even though lots was going on behind the scenes of the royal family, Meghan and Kate falling out, for example, the Queen warning Harry about Meghan's behaviour. But the public was very disturbed by the way she treated her own father, who she threw under a bus and now pretend doesn't exist, was very concerned about her hypocrisy, lecturing us about climate change while taking private jets all around the world. And also, the public, quite rightly, was very concerned about the way staff kept seeming to leave Nikki. And we now know there are numerous bullying charges against her. So I just don't buy your thesis, Nikki. I know you can pull out one or two articles that were on particular websites, but on the whole, the coverage of Meghan was very positive until her behaviour was exposed.
Actually, quite early on, Dan, a very important newspaper, which you are well acquainted with, ran the headline about Meghan being straight out of Compton.
What's wrong with that?
Extremely racist. It's
How?
extremely racist.
How?
Because
it's a suburb 5 miles
trope.
from where she lived.
I know exactly where it is. It's playing on the trope of her being somehow, you know, part of rap culture because she's half black.
They also spoke about how her father's side of the family had Essex roots. I guess the difference between me and you, Nikki, is I don't look for racism in everything.
They didn't run that as a headline, Dan. They didn't run that as a headline, did they? They didn't run the headline.
But what about all of these positive headlines?
From Essex.
What about all of these positive headlines?
Because I said that, I acknowledged that when we talked about this a minute ago. Of course, at the beginning, the press was positive, overwhelmingly positive towards them. I didn't say that. What I said is that the tone changed quickly when they realised that Meghan wasn't going to toe the line.
I just find it absolutely hilarious that allies of Harry and Meghan themselves expect to have 100% universal positive coverage. And if there's even 5% negative coverage, Angela, it's obviously because we're all racist. But what about these front pages, Angela?
Yes, it's all nonsense. What I can't understand is why don't they move on? They must have this real urge and passion to kill off the royal family. I don't mean kill them directly, but I mean to get rid of them. They've got to get their own back. We saw in the docu-series the beautiful place they live. They've got their own beach. They've got all these wonderful things, two sweet little children, and yet they're both absolutely determined. I think Meghan's fed up, and I think she feels that she didn't know what was going on about the hierarchy, because most of these things she pretends she'd never heard of, she doesn't know. And that she's very, very angry with Harry that he didn't actually let her know that she could be on a level with William or on a level with the Queen, and the Queen would accept all her wonderful ideas, and that's eating her away. But she's got to get over it, because we're not interested in that, not one bit.
OK, thank you so much to Angela Levin and Nikki Hodgson. Who do you agree with? Do the Sussexes deserve accountability and an apology from King Charles and Prince William over Megxit, as Prince Harry suggests? Wendy on Twitter writes, having watched the entire documentary, my thoughts about these two have completely changed. They were set up and hounded. The press have a lot to answer for. Ian says, if they had admitted where they also went wrong, then maybe I would listen. You can't just blame the other side. Their story needs balance. And from Matt, if anything, the Sussexes should be apologising, not being apologised to. They're really beginning to scrape the bottom of the barrel, and they should frankly clear off. And your verdict is now in. Just 8% of you agree that the Sussexes deserve accountability and an apology from King Charles or Prince William. 92% of you say that Charles and William should tell them to shove it. But coming up, as a new poll suggests the majority of Brits still support the nurses' strikes, despite lives being put at risk today. Are health workers exploiting the public's goodwill? Well, political firebrand Anne Widdecombe speaks out in The Outsider at 9:50. She's actually been dragged into this royal row too, so we'll ask her about that as well. But first, will today's revelations be the final nail in the coffin for Harry and Meghan's relationship with the Windsors and the Markles? Samantha Markle and our royal mastermind, Lady Colin Campbell. They're live straight after the break.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prison.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed. So I guess they've always been quite woke. That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
My name's Tom Harwood, and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us. We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing. You see, amazing.
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512.
Virgin Media Channel 604.
Freesat Channel 216.
Freeview Channel 236.
And YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Time now to get the inside track on the war on the Windsors. Now, if the Sussexes declared war on their respective families last week, in today's volume of their Netflix travesty, Harry and Meghan went full nuclear.
It was terrifying to have my brother scream and shout at me and my father say things that just simply weren't true. And
I've lost my dad in this.
So when did things start to go awry there?
When the media got involved.
Well, we're joined this morning by Meghan Markle's father, Thomas.
It was incredibly painful.
Well, in a world-exclusive interview, Samantha Markle joins me now to give her first reaction to Meghan's latest attacks, and she's alongside the royal insider, Lady Colin Campbell, who is here to offer the Windsor perspective. Sam Markle, wow, so much to discuss. What do you make of it?
Well, good evening, Lady Colin Campbell and Dan. It's so good to be here. Shocking, as you all know, and it just incredible, just such a display of projection, in my opinion. Firstly, I mean, I think we all know that they were paying pricey PR to tell their story all along, controlling a lot of the media. And I think, though, a lot of people are forgetting something really important. We watched from across the pond. And it wasn't only this deal. We saw her seemingly upstaging Beyonce at the Lion King premiere and hitting Bob Iger up for voiceover work. We heard that these so-called film deals were in the works even before Megxit, and we heard across the pond that that was integral. But her PR made it look as though the decision to leave was Harry and Meghan's decision. So, you know, all of this poppycock about being thrown out and being screamed at and being bullied, I don't believe it for 1 minute. And if William and now King Charles were upset, of course, they were in royal duty and they were making Hollywood deals, which is my understanding is prohibited.
Yes. Well, I heard the same thing, Sam.
Yeah.
I heard the same thing, that deals were actually being done with Disney and with the book company when they were still working royals, and that went against all. Oh wow!
Hey,
this is Thomas.
What's up, guys?
Thomas Markle Jr. too. Have you just?
You guys, how come I wasn't invited to this?
Look, join us, join the party. This is great. We've got both Markle siblings now, Thomas Markle Jr. Great to have you. And Tom, how's your dad? Always have to ask because you've been looking after him. So have you surprised? Is this a surprise trip to see Sam? Is he with you?
What dad? I don't have a dad.
Oh, that's right.
Don't do a Megan.
Megan's made it very clear we don't have a dad.
We lost our dad. She said so.
No, Dad's doing pretty well. He's he's doing good. Yeah,
has he travelled? Oh, amazing. Oh, I love that. Is one of the reasons that you've got together because this is quite a tough time for you as a family? The Markles are under attack, obviously, thanks to Netflix.
Yeah, and what I want to say about that is that's prompted me to put together an amazing production team. So in about the fall of 2023, you're going to get the best documentary of the Markles, the truth, 100% across the board, which everybody's waiting for.
Sounds great.
In defense of the Markles, it's long overdue. I've been getting so many comments on my YouTube channel and my Instagram. Spill the tea, come on. I held out for a reason because I knew this day was coming. And here we are.
Well, I think the time has come. I mean, I'm going to bring Lady Colin Campbell in now. I know that you two are both big supporters of Lady C. Lady C, I mean, this wasn't just an attack on the Markles. It was an attack on the Windsors today. It feels like Harry and Meghan are burning all of their bridges.
Well, it was an attack on the Windsors, but it was also, of course, an attack on Thomas Markle Sr. And
despicable.
They have, to an extent, burnt their bridges. But, the reality is Prince Harry is, and I'm going to try to be polite now, he is a fragile individual who has been led, and there are very grave concerns, starting with his father, to be blunt, about the outcome and what will happen, if this persists. Because, the options that the royal family has are very few and far between, because they actually do not want to tip Harry over the edge so that Meghan can be a fabulous widow.
No, of course. And when it comes to mental health, we know that Harry has had problems. I mean, Samantha and Thomas Jr., you obviously know your sister. Do you feel like she has maybe manipulated Harry at all? Because it feels to me like they're a couple. They don't lift each other up. I think the best relationships, your partner lifts you up. It feels like they want to bring each other down.
Yeah, the other thing I found so shocking was that for Doria to suggest that she was brokenhearted because Meghan was depressed or suicidal. Well, she's supposed to be a social worker. And if you've got someone that you're with all the time, and the world said that she was their advisor on all things, if you knew at one point that she was even indicating being depressed and you let it get to suicidal ideation, then you should cash your license in, because that's poppycock. That's just not true. If she was so close to her, she would have been supportive. Advising.
Well, I find the whole story hard to believe, because the members of the royal family and their staff were there to support Harry and Meghan, and much of what I've said about the staff hasn't been true. But look, I want to show you this clip because Meghan today offered a rare look at the relationship between Meghan and her paternal grandmother, who is, of course, your grandmother as well. So I want you to watch this and react off the back, Thomas and Samantha.
I recognize and respect and see that you are the queen. But in this moment, I'm so grateful that there's a grandmother figure. Because that feels like family. And because I was so close with my grandmother, and I took care of her in her final years.
Sam and Thomas Jr., is it true that she cared for your grandmother?
No, my father was paying for everything, paying for her nursing home care. She visited sometimes, but she didn't have a close relationship with our grandmother, Markle. They didn't make apple butter together. And when I saw that whole spiel, I thought, oh my God, she's playing the matriarchy card to impress the queen. That is so far from the truth. And my grandmother, in fact, my father could attest to this. My grandmother would roll over in her grave if she saw how Meghan was treating our family and the royals.
Yeah.
Oh my word.
Do you agree with that, Thomas?
I would like to say one thing real quick about, so far all the series that I've been watching and all the episodes, it just reminds me of like 6 individual one-sided Oprah interviews. I mean, it's all so one-sided, and it's just whatever comes out of her mouth, we're supposed to believe. It's ridiculous.
I know. I mean, Lady C, there is no journalistic integrity from Netflix. They are publishing lies. They are broadcasting lies, Lady C. What do you make of it?
Well, not only are they publishing lies, they are deliberately and knowingly publishing lies. And when they're not publishing the lies, they are omitting the truth to have a dangerous agenda, which is racist. And, Netflix has shot itself in the foot in one respect. For the first half, they say how wonderful Meghan was, and she was so popular that William and Catherine were sending hitmen after her, and they were green with envy. Then in the next bit, they're saying, actually, no, everybody was racist. Well, which was it? Because if everybody was racist, she couldn't have been so popular.
And Charles was great at that point, wasn't he? And then all of a sudden he was a monster by the time of the Sandringham summit. That's never explained. I mean, Lady C, isn't it sad when you see the Markle family, and we've got to know the Markles well over the past couple of years. This is a tight-knit family. Thomas is looking after... Thomas Jr. is looking after Thomas Sr. full-time. Here they are all together with Sam, who we know is in a wheelchair, really struggles to travel. Meghan is missing out on so much, isn't she? And what's so sad is Harry is now missing out on that too, Lady C, with his own family.
And the children. The children are missing out on an aunt, an uncle, a grandfather. But let's not forget that Meghan has also very mischievously played Ashley the way she has played Harry.
Samantha's daughter. How did you feel about that today, Sam? Because your daughter seems to have been used in some sort of PR campaign by Meghan to sort of make clear that she's reconnecting with the Markle family in some way, even though she's still cutting out her father, her brother and her sister.
Right, and I think it was a low blow to try to manipulate my daughter. Clearly, she knew that my daughter and I were back in touch, and I think to weaponize her, I think to clearly there's no gray zone, to lie to her and tell her that the royals made the decision that she couldn't go to the royal wedding was a lie, and it saddened her and it pitted her against me because she believed falsely that I was the villain. And just how conniving and manipulative and evil to do that to a mother and daughter relationship. She has no business, and I hope Ashley knows now.
Well, look, I loved bringing you together. We want the Markles in London, of course, when Thomas Sr. is well enough to travel. We will make that trip. And Lady Colin Campbell, we will speak again next week. Thank you so much to Samantha Markle, Thomas Markle Jr. and Lady C. But coming up, has Prince Harry disrespected the royals by claiming Meghan did the job better and accusing our late Queen of being jealous of her media coverage? I'll ask my superstar panel when they return for the Media Buzz at 10, and we'll find out how tomorrow's newspapers are reacting too. But first, as a new poll suggests Brits support nurses' strike despite lives being put at risk, are health workers exploiting the public's goodwill to make selfish demands? Former Tory Minister Anne Widdecombe, she's live with me straight after the break.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Anne Widdecombe is tonight's outsider. And today we witnessed the first nursing strikes in history across England, Scotland and Wales, with tens of thousands of staff abandoning NHS wards, appointments and operations in a move that many fear will ultimately cause senseless deaths. However, a new Ipsos poll has suggested the majority of Brits, 52%, continue to support the Royal College of Nursing and their future punishing walkouts, with only 27% indicating they were against them. Well, Anne Widdecombe, I have to say, I am in the 27%. I am very opposed to these strikes because people will die today. You say that irresponsible?
Yes, I believe they are being entirely irresponsible. People will die, as you say, but there'll be an awful lot of suffering as well. Ever longer waiting lists, you know, and the impact on COVID on those waiting lists hasn't been got over yet, won't be for some time. And now they're going to add another dimension to that. And this is all in pursuit of an inflation-busting pay rise. Now, what that means is that if people get pay rises above inflation, then that itself pushes prices up because the pay rises have got to be covered. And that, therefore, pushes inflation up. And that's what we had throughout the 1970s. We had a wage price inflation spiral. This government is trying very hard to make sure that we don't start on that route at all. And I think they are right to hold out. I don't think that the pay of NHS staff is brilliant, but nor do I think that it leaves them on the poverty line. And I really do think this is a time when we've all got to be responsible.
Yeah, I mean, I think most folk think that the nurses deserve some form of pay rise, but the problem is they are asking for 19%. That is 5% above inflation. And the problem is, Anne, where's this coming from? Because we're already pouring billions more a year into the NHS.
We are, but just as the public will not contemplate a proper debate about the future of the NHS, because they immediately think, oh, they want to privatise it or they want to cut services or whatever. We have to have that debate. But the public are too emotionally engaged with the NHS to really be behind such a debate. And in exactly the same way, the public are very emotionally engaged with the nurses, which I understand, actually understand that. But because of that, they're putting hearts before heads. And I'm afraid, if we're to get on top of inflation, then we need to give the nurses a pay rise. Of course we do. Nobody's arguing about that. But the question is the size of the pay rise. And I don't believe anybody in the whole kingdom should put other people's lives and welfare at risk in the interests of their own pay packets.
No, and look, I certainly did not anticipate you getting dragged into Harry and Meghan's Netflix nonsense. However, a 2018 headline quoting you as being uneasy with Meghan's background during a stint when you were in the Celebrity Big Brother house was used to apparently exemplify widespread racism across Britain. And even though the actual conversation, we've gone and found it, it actually, by the way, features you getting your makeup done by one of our superstar panellists, Ashley James. So have a look at this.
Ashley.
People are so cynical before the people are even married. Give them a couple of a chance.
I love Meghan. I think she's very beautiful. No, I love her.
Oh, no.
Okay, let's take a vote.
I think she's trouble.
Why do you think she's trouble, Anne?
Background, attitude, I worry.
She's older than him. Yeah. She's been married before.
Yes. I add it all up and I'm uneasy, but there we go.
So, Anne, you're actually not talking about race at all, are you?
I didn't have race in my mind at all during that. And apparently, so it's been peddled today that this is all not only part of proof that, we were all racist and rejecting Meghan for that reason, but actually, apparently it proves that there was a great conspiracy in Buckingham Palace to spread this sort of malicious rot. I can tell you this, when you're in the Big Brother house, you're cut off from the rest of the world. I did not have a call from the palace saying, hello, Charles here, could you say something disobliging about my daughter-in-law? Oh, they grow up, honestly.
Grow up. That is the message from Woody. Anne Widdecombe, thank you so much. We'll speak next week, Anne. But coming up, would Princess Diana be ashamed of Prince Harry for turning on William? Tom Bower, the man who's documented this royal feud from the start, breaks down the latest twists and turns in the Battle of the Brothers. He's live with me in the studio at 10:15. But first, has Prince Harry disrespected the royal family by accusing them of being jealous of Meghan? And have the Sussexes just made the British press a bogeyman? My superstar panel return to debate this in the Media Buzz straight after the break. We're back in 2 minutes.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by two of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes & Co. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes & Co.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512,
Virgin Media Channel 604,
Freesat Channel 216.
Freeview Channel 236.
And YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 10 p.m. I'm Dan Wootton. Tonight, I'm not afraid to say it, and I bet I'm not alone. Princess Diana would be ashamed of Prince Harry for turning on his brother in such public fashion, accusing William of bullying him and Meghan out of the royal family, and yet another incendiary claim are backed up by no evidence.
It was terrifying to have my brother scream and shout at me and my father say things that just simply weren't true.
Meghan's biographer Tom Bauer, who's documented this royal fallout from the start, joins me to discuss what happens next in the Battle of the Brothers. He's live in the studio at 10:15. Has Harry disrespected the royals by claiming Meghan did the better job and suggesting even the late Queen was jealous of the Duchess? I'll debate that and whether the couple's attempts to make a bogeyman of the media are justified with my superstar panel next. On the sofa tonight, Carol McGiffin, Sean Bailey and Amy Nicole. Are the Sussexes right to shift the blame for Megxit off of Meghan?
When a guy falls in love with a girl, his buddies are like, oh my God, he changed. I don't see him anymore. He's always with her. And you blame the girl.
TV hardman Ant Middleton isn't so sure about Meghan's thesis. He's uncancelled at 10:45. Plus, after nurses stage historic strikes, is the Daily Mirror wrong to suggest critics of the walkout are not decent people? Not talking about me there, folks. And amid warnings that end-of-life care could soon be impacted, do nurses have a moral duty to help the dying? That's our big debate in the media buzz at 10:30. We'll also get a glimpse of tomorrow's newspapers hot off the press and a new Greatest Britain and Union Jackass crowned. So do start with us tonight. But before all of that, the news headlines at 10 with Tamsin Roberts.
Dan, thank you. Good evening from the GB newsroom. Rail strikes will still go ahead tomorrow after talks failed to resolve a dispute over pay, jobs and conditions. The 48-hour walkout by members of the RMT union will severely disrupt services across the UK, with some areas having no trains at all. 14 rail companies will be affected, including Network Rail. Passengers are being urged to travel only if necessary. Tens of thousands of nurses have been taking part in the biggest strike in NHS history today. Picket lines were set up in England, Wales and Northern Ireland in the first of two 12-hour walkouts over pay. Staff have been providing some urgent care, but routine surgery and other planned treatment has been disrupted. Meanwhile, ground baggage handlers at Heathrow Airport have suspended planned strike action after receiving an improved pay offer. More than 400 staff members had been set to begin a 72-hour walkout tomorrow morning. The Unite union says it will now ballot its members, and other planned industrial action remains in place pending the outcome. The Prime Minister is in Belfast for his first official trip to Northern Ireland since taking office. Tonight, he's holding informal talks with political leaders in an attempt to end Stormont suspension. Rishi Sunak will also use the two-day visit to promote the government's investment in shipbuilding in the city. He says the deal to build Royal Navy support vessels will create thousands of high-value jobs. The four boys who died after falling into a frozen lake in Solihull have been named by West Midlands Police. 8-year-old Finlay Butler, his 6-year-old brother Samuel and their cousin, 11-year-old Thomas Stewart, were taken to hospital where they died on Monday. The fourth child, who reportedly tried to save the others, has been named as Jack Johnson, aged 10. The families say they are devastated by the loss of the boys in such tragic circumstances. The royal family gathered at Westminster Abbey this evening for a Christmas carol service hosted by the Princess of Wales and attended by the King. Just a warning for those watching on television, the following footage contains flashing images. The Together at Christmas concert was attended by nearly 2,000 for a service to recognise the selfless efforts of individuals and families. The royal family put on a united front just hours after the second instalment of Harry and Meghan's controversial Netflix docuseries was released. TV, online and DAB+ radio. This is GB News. Now it's back to Dan Wootton tonight.
Tomorrow's news tonight now in our media buzz. First front pages are in, hot off the press. Still time to care is the headline in the Metro as striking nurses break the picket line to help a patient. Instincts kicked in as nurses crossed their own line in Bristol to treat a man who collapsed in front of them in sub-zero temperatures. The Eye also leading on the nurses' strike today with the headline, NHS crisis puts every ambulance trust under great pressure. North East Ambulance Service has warned people not to call for help unless lives are in danger as the East of England service faces a, quote, incredibly high demand. The Independent leads with the shocking stat that 1 in 4 rented British homes, that's nearly 1 million, are unfit for human habitation. Government ministers are facing growing pressure to take action, but Housing Secretary Michael Gove has told landlords that they must get a grip of the situation. Well, that is the right thing. Of course they've got to get a grip of it. I like this one, though. The Daily Star, leading with the claims from the Meghan and Harry documentary in the way that only they know how. So there they've used one of the very intimate pictures released from the documentary showing Harry and Meghan dancing with a brief message from the man who hates the idea of invading people's privacy. Dad told Whoppers and my scary brother screamed at me. It really does sum up the patheticness of the whole situation, doesn't it? My superstar panel, back with me now. Star of the Harry and Meghan documentary, Carol McGiffin, former Conservative London mayoral candidate Sean Bailey, and the writer and broadcaster Amy Nicol. Now, in a prime example of Harry and Meghan's delusion and self-importance, the sulking Sussexes have claimed in their Netflix hatchet job that the royal family's jealousy of the Duchess precipitated their bitter exit. They even suggested the late, great Queen Elizabeth II was envious of Meghan. Sorry, just couldn't believe this after the royal newbie knocked her late Majesty off the front page of her beloved Daily Telegraph. I mean, the Queen, she was on front pages since 1928, you know. Basically, things were going too well. The Sussexes were just too loved, you know, which meant the monarchy and the British press that apparently loved them so much had no option but to cut them down to size by printing unfavourable and completely true stories. Here it is.
I think Australia was a real turning point because they were so popular with the public. The internals at the palace were incredibly threatened by that.
The issue is when someone who's marrying in, who should be a supporting act, is then stealing the limelight or is doing the job better than the person who was born to do this. That upsets people. It shifts the balance. After an event where every single member of the family, senior members of the family had been, including the Queen, and on the front page of the Telegraph, Meghan.
And then we had a walkabout in Liverpool, and there was a group of women. And one of them said to me, "What you're doing to your father's not right." It was the first time that I went, oh my God, people actually believe this stuff.
Carol, again, this was such an enlightening clip to me.
Yeah.
Because the reason the woman in Liverpool made that comment to Meghan was nothing to do with the British press. What Meghan did to her father was a human decision that lots of people, including me, looked at and thought, wow, this is the dad that you had praised for so many years, that said, raised you alone at certain points, that instilled your moral values, and you were prepared to throw him under the bus because he made one mistake. By the way, I don't even think it's a mistake. Who cares that he sold a paparazzi picture?
Exploited his own daughter for cash.
But the point is, this shows that they have tried to paint a narrative which actually isn't true. The British public turned not because of false stories, but because of true stories, because what happened with Thomas Markle was true.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely true. This is what I said before. They're presenting everything as fact. It isn't, and a lot of people are believing it. And, you know, the thing is, I think that you are mildly obsessed with all of this, but you do know the truth, and that's the point.
I do. I think that's why I've become so annoyed about it, Carol, because I see what they're saying. And remember, I was there writing these stories. I broke Tiaragate, I broke Megxit. The royal family tried so hard to stop me writing these stories, Carol. They made legal threats, they made regulatory threats, they tried to use all sorts of excuses as to why I shouldn't publish these stories. They were actually doing everything they could to stop newspapers running true stories. But my job as a journalist was to discover the truth, and the truth was that Meghan was treating staff terribly.
So it's going against everything that they say, and that the royal family were trying to protect them from the media, especially which they've made the media into the big villain, the massive villain. Obviously, they're
as if we're conspiring with the royal family.
Yeah, no, exactly, and that just doesn't happen, as you know.
Because the thing is, what does happen, and as I say, I don't usually like to get into how the sausage is made, but I think it's important in this case because with the Megxit story, for example, Harry and Meghan's communications secretary was briefing me on that right up until the last minute, including, by the way, providing me with the detail that one of the reasons that Harry and Meghan were prepared to leave the royal family was because the Queen had released a picture of her, Charles, William and George over Christmas, the Christmas that Harry and Meghan spent in Canada, by the way. And Harry and Meghan were so angry about it because they viewed it as a sign from the institution that they weren't going to be senior royals in the future. That was briefed to me by Harry and Meghan's team after they had returned from Canada. And the point that I make about that is not that, by the way, the communications secretary did anything wrong, but just that their job is to speak to journalists. It doesn't mean they are planting stories. They're just trying to provide both sides of the story.
And also for them to claim that... I mean, this is almost the most laughable and the most delusional part of it, that the Queen and the royal family were jealous because they were so popular. God. It's almost like it's beyond self-important. It's beyond delusional, isn't it?
Sean, that was almost like parody.
Embarrassing.
Did Harry genuinely think that the Queen came down to breakfast and thought, goodness gracious me, I'm not on the front page of the Daily Telegraph today, that awful Meghan, we must bring her down?
Look, I want to bring a bit of balance to this, because look, if you're Harry and Meghan, you think the institution is out to get you, and once you believe that, you start seeing it everywhere.
But they weren't.
But the thing I will say, though, I think sometimes we need to cut them a little bit more slack than maybe you are, but I will say this, the idea that the Queen wasn't happy to get up the front page is incredible, because a lot of the time she was trying to dodge the press. She'd like a few minutes out of the glare of the limelight. And the other thing I'd say as well, if you are part of that royal institution, any part of it that's popular should be a boon. But the one thing where I say they are correct, in the beginning, Meghan was mega popular, and importantly, she was important with people who wouldn't really look at the royal family, had no excitement about it.
Until she said her dad was dead to her. Amy Nicole, the narrative that Harry and Meghan have tried to spin is that the royal family were furious with their popularity, that they were doing the job better than Kate and William, and as a result, they conspired with the media to bring Harry and Meghan down. You're a big fan of Harry and Meghan. Do you buy into this narrative?
I don't see why I've got any reason to believe that narrative less than the narrative that you've presented to me.
Because they're proven liars and I'm a proven truth teller.
When you talk about these proven lies, they're never quite as damning or much of a gotcha as you think. Like, give me an example of one of the things that you said is a lie.
That they got married before the wedding.
Okay, so they had a blessing before the legal marriage. It's interpretation, isn't it? I feel like
That Prince William-
you willfully
that Prince
misinterpret them
William
all the time.
bullied them
so
out
when
of the
you've
royal
said
family.
about this Daily Telegraph cover, all he said was, even the senior royals were there, even the Queen was there, and still Meghan got the front page.
Yeah, and he's saying that that's one of the reasons that they were
He's
so
not saying-
annoyed that they tried to
But I
conspire
think
with the media to bring her
that's
down.
extremely different.
Do you not
to saying
think he's-
the Queen was really jealous? Like, that's a massive jump,
I
even
don't
by
think
your
it's-
standards.
I don't think it's a massive jump.
Well, I do,
I mean,
and
viewers
I
can
think
judge,
I
they
think
just
there's
saw it
only
there.
so much that one woman can take, and I think we need to rewind.
I think, look, it
calm
goes
down now, 'cause it's all
where
way too far.
Amy is correct. Where Amy is correct. Amy is pointing out a real truth here. Well, how you view them is how you interpret the whole thing.
They're not criminals. They haven't done anything
Yeah.
wrong. It doesn't affect our lives. Let's just calm down and leave them to it.
No, what? I would love that. I would love that. But why can't we? Because they're putting out 6 hours of documentary footage invading their own private life, which they actually went to America to try and preserve. I mean, it's so breathtakingly hypocritical.
Hold on. If you take Amy's point, what they feel like they're doing is giving their side of the story. They feel like they've been pummeled with other people writing their truth, and they're giving their end of the story.
Yeah, they're not.
That's
They're
how they see
whining
it.
and moaning and
entitled to their
whinging,
narrative
and they're
as
going
much.
on and on and on. And I just wish they would go away and go and live their lives. You know, go and have your lovely life in
Carol, I
California.
don't think they care whether you're watching their Netflix show or not.
Oh, no, they do.
They do.
They do. Because if folk aren't watching, they don't get the moolah, the big bucks. And remember
Exactly.
that
We
this
have
is
been
all about the
talking
money,
about them
money,
for
Amy.
hours
It's
and
all
hours
about
and
the money,
hours.
money,
If
money.
you don't want
I'm
them to have
sorry.
attention, stop giving them attention.
Well, you can't. But
I'm
no,
sorry,
hold on, Amy. They are asking
on
for
a
the
mission
attention.
to bring down the royal family. The idea that I'm going to sit back and say go ahead when they will want to bring down the royal family with lies, I'm
I
not
think
going
you
to
have
do
a
that.
sentimentality about the royal
I
family
don't think
that's really
what they'll
intriguing,
do-
because sometimes things aren't as they seem, and if you're not open to the fact that maybe somewhere along the lines there have been faults in that family and that family aren't perfect.
Amy, I'm one of the journalists who helped to expose Prince Andrew. Give me a break. I believe the royal family should be covered as a public institution. I absolutely do.
course.
But I think the Queen's 70-year reign was close to flawless, perhaps apart from her initial reaction to the death of Princess Diana, which was because she was trying to protect William and Harry. So I'm sorry, I believe the royal family should be held to account. Of course I
Then
do.
hold them to
but
account
I believe
with equal
Harry and Meghan
weight,
should be held
because
to
the
account.
weight you've given to a pretty innocuous documentary, with
rubbish.
very little
Rubbish.
has really
Rubbish. Go and look
compared
at everything
to
I've said
somebody
and written about
who-
Prince Andrew.
who
Go
paid-
and
who
look at
paid-
everything
who-
I've
who
said and
paid-
written about Prince Andrew over the past 10 years. So before you give me that.
I've never seen a monologue like the one you did tonight with the same emphasis and
Completely
emotion
untrue.
directed at Prince
Completely
Andrew.
untrue. I've
No,
got the
it's
receipts.
Totally not.
I've
Show
got
me
the receipts.
receipts.
I'll send you the
We'll play
link.
it out.
I'll send you the link.
This has all got
I'll
a bit
send you the
much.
link
Look,
straight on the show. Yeah.
Ding, ding, round
Ding,
two.
ding, round two.
Yeah.
We'll do it later. Amy Nicole, Sean Bailey, Karen McGiffin, 2 stand by, because coming up, is it wrong for lefty rag the Daily Mirror to declare that opponents of the devastating nurses' strike are not decent people? My superstar panel return to debate that in Media Buzz Part 2 at 10:30. But first, would Princess Diana be appalled with Prince Harry blaming William for the breakdown of their relationship and bullying him out of the royal family? The man who's documented every cough and spit of this feud, Meghan's biographer Tom Bauer, joins me live in the studio straight after the break.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh, my goodness me.
And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions. I have no time for cultural totalitarianism. We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8". My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
Meghan's biographer Tom Bower is here for another dose of sizzling analysis on the war on the Windsors. And no doubt, to his late mother's despair, the Duke of Sussex pulled no punches in his Netflix series by blaming his brother William for bullying him. He used that word out of the royal family.
And I both saw what happened in our dad's office, and we made an agreement that we would never let that happen to our office. To see my brother's office copy the very same thing that we promised the two of us would never ever do, that was heartbreaking.
What am I looking at? Wow. He's just got a text. Yeah, he's just got a text from his brother.
What should we have to do?
So, Tom, I mean, there's so much to unpack here, obviously. But William and Charles have been very suspicious for some time that their text messages, that their phone calls could potentially be used in the media by Meghan and Harry. There we literally see them filming and including in the Netflix series a private text message. OK, they don't reveal the contents, but clearly a negative text message that William...
Absolutely. What we're really now seeing is that both of them, having posed as the victim for so long, are really the aggressors. And what I really thought at the end of it as well was this, which I think is a very, very pertinent point. When they came across for the Queen's funeral, and there was that amazing scene outside the castle of meeting the well-wishers in the walk, there was always talk of reconciliation. Mm-hmm. Charles and William and Kate go one side, Harry and Meghan the other side, smiling and all the rest of it. But at that time, William didn't know that Harry and Meghan had already recorded their poison for Netflix. It was already edited. All the stuff that we heard today about Charles lying, about William screaming and shouting, was in the can, was being edited. And they duplicitously did not reveal what they were going to do. Now, Harry's got form on that because he did exactly the same at Prince Philip's funeral when he recorded that whole thing about how his father was responsible for his mental breakdown. And he stood in the St George's Chapel knowing that he'd done his family down in the Apple broadcast, the armchair broadcast, and didn't reveal it. So he's as duplicitous as Meghan, but it's worse because she's an actress. She's got no stake in this country. But Harry, a former army officer, betraying the army, his country, his family, his father, dumping on the king, the future king too, and also on his grandmother, that is extraordinary. I mean, Diana would be shocked. The one thing Diana didn't do was be so duplicitous, so dishonest.
Well, no, and Diana made it clear, didn't she? Her criticism was always reserved for Charles.
Absolutely.
Not for the Queen, not for the institution of monarchy itself.
But Harry has actually gone out of his way to undermine everything that we stand for. He's gone out of his way to undermine the family, the institution. We all know that she never intended to go to the Portland hospital. She intended to have the baby at home. We know that they deceived the public about the birth date and time of the whole event. So, and also, you know, even it goes down to the lawyer saying that in that statement, when they have that long attack on the Mail, which is astonishing, that Meghan, we know she lied in her statement, that she says that she didn't cooperate with Omid Scobie, and she said that she didn't consult anyone when writing the letter to her father. That was in a sworn written statement. That one admits that it was untrue, but her lawyer says Meghan didn't lie. Well, extraordinary how the whole thing is unravelling.
And yet they don't produce any evidence.
None at all.
Of the claims that they have made against the royal family. For example, William being a bully. For example, this idea that the royal family was conspiring with the press to bring them down. Where is the evidence?
It's always they. They never name them, except they did name Jason Knauf, the man who in the end exposed Meghan's lies, and of course they're furious with him. So the whole series ends with that statement on the screen which says Knauf is the liar, not us. And that is the level they've sunk to. But I also think, you know, Netflix have a lot to answer for. If an established broadcaster in Britain or America produced that sort of succession, 6 hours of lies, they would be absolutely hounded out.
No balance.
Not only no balance, no truth, no criteria. I mean, what is the criteria? It is just propaganda. You know, Joseph Goebbels, Hitler's propagandist, would look with real awe at what the Sussexes and Netflix have achieved.
Because what they've done quite cleverly, right, especially for an international audience, because I know this is landing well, shockingly, outside of the UK. What they've done very cleverly is they use their friends, their lawyer, academics who have always backed their side of the argument to seem to give a balanced picture. It's as if you are watching a balanced documentary, but in fact, all of those people are stooges. They are plants for Harry and Meghan. I mean, this friend, Lucy Fraser, I think her name is, she's some sort of PR. She's stating as categorical fact, right, that there were internals, as she calls them, at the palace who had decided that Harry and Meghan had become too popular, so they had to bring them down. Who has told Lucy that? Harry and Meghan. She hasn't spoken to anyone at the palace.
But, you know, what's really extraordinary as well is that normally in making documentaries, which I did for more than 20 years at the BBC, you film someone, that's it. This is all acted, it's contrived. Doria always has that little pause, the little tear. Have you noticed how Meghan cries, but there's never a tear? The makeup is never smeared. Everything is so rehearsed.
We found that clip of her, didn't she, saying that one of her great talents is that she can cry on cue out of her left eye.
And you know, the whole construction of her father, that man who in the end was abandoned by Meghan for months, before the wedding, totally left to his own devices, isolated, really felt abandoned. That's why he sold the photographs, because he felt so besmirched. To actually say he was the reason why the whole thing exploded, why they had to leave in Britain. And then, of course, Harry saying, of course, Meghan's got no father. And now he doesn't have a father. They really are.
It's despicable. And I know you've obviously done this, as have I. You know, you go and you speak to the Markles, you get to understand them. But actually, you can look at Meghan's own public statements. I mean, she stood up at the United Nations. That was her most famous appearance before meeting Harry. And she praised Thomas Markle. She said he was a great father who instilled the values in her that allowed her to challenge that soap company, which she talks about all the time. She credited that to... Well, of course it was. But the point is, she credited her father. And now she's sort of trying to say, oh, yeah, he was a good dad, but I actually felt really lonely as a kid.
But what is also so terrible is that Harry never went to see the father.
Oh.
And why not? Because Meghan was ashamed of him. Because Meghan was already constructing a whole new narrative to exclude the father. And in that, the father, Thomas Markle, blames Doria. Yeah. And Doria plays a really sinister role in this whole story. Because remember, for 10 years in Meghan's life, from the age of 5 to 18, more than 10 years, she disappeared.
But we never hear about that.
We never hear. And she says at one stage, I went to every one of Meghan's plays at school. Of course she didn't. She was never there.
No, and also, Thomas Markle paid for the university fees.
And the school fees, and the car, and the home, and the blackout, he paid for everything, the petrol, everything.
So, Tom, look, can we look ahead? Because, of course, this isn't the end. You know, it's only a couple of weeks until we're likely to get the first leak of Spare, the Harry autobiography. Now, I hear lots of people, I disagree with them, but I hear lots of people saying, oh, what more damage can he do? But I think you think this book could be even worse.
Well, I think what they've had to do is they've had to stage and restrict what's in Netflix so they've got something new to sell the book, because there's £20 million at least. Well, I think there's definitely got to be something about Camilla. She's escaped so far. I think there's...
We know they don't like her.
We know we don't like her, and there's the whole race thing there. I think there's more about King Charles, the relationship with his father, the relationship between father and mother. I think there's a lot more about the whole institutions of British government. And I think something of the Queen as well. I mean, what he said about the Queen today was shocking, that she sat there likes of at the Sandringham Summit not saying anything. But what was terrible, he said about the Queen, and he'd done about the Queen, is that he knew that he'd dumped on his grandmother when he was burying her in Windsor. And that is the level of their duplicity. That is unforgivable of Harry to have done that.
I think it's completely unforgivable, and actually he's trying to undo the late Queen's life work.
As he has about the Commonwealth, absolutely.
No, indeed. Tom Bower, the author of the book about Meghan, where you can get the real truth, right? Not their truth. It's called Revenge, and it's out now. Tom, thank you so much. But coming up, are the Sussexes right to shift the blame for Megxit off of Meghan? TV hardman Ant Middleton disagrees, and he's going to join me to discuss why at 10:45. But first, after nurses stage historic strikes, is the Daily Mirror wrong to suggest critics of the walkouts are not decent people, and amid warnings that end-of-life care could soon be impacted? Do they have a moral duty to help the dying? We're going to debate that in the Media Buzz straight after the break.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions. I have no time for cultural totalitarianism. We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me.
And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512.
Virgin Media Channel 604.
Freesat Channel 216.
Freeview Channel 236.
And YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Tomorrow's News Tonight now in the media buzz. One story is dominating. The Sun brand Prince Harry the traitor and Prince William the dutiful, following the Duke's vicious all-out war on his family. In his latest Netflix episode, they highlight how Harry called his father, King Charles, a liar, while also demanding an apology. The Times believes Harry has deepened the rift with Wills by accusing his brother of screaming at him in a high-stakes Megxit clash. Dignity in the face of treachery is the headline in the Daily Mail. They draw attention to Wills and Charles' measured response to Harry's savage onslaught, with the family all attending the Duchess of Cambridge's carol service at Westminster Abbey tonight. The Daily Telegraph leads with reports that the NHS is on high alert over a flu outbreak, with admissions up 40% in a week. The Guardian leads with Tory MPs putting growing pressure on the PM to open pay negotiations with nurses after today's historic strike. And the Daily Express also reports on senior Tories wanting Sunak to step in and give nurses a better pay deal. Ex-Conservative Party Chairman Jake Berry said, "Do us all a favour, sit down and sort this out." My superstar panel back with me now. The columnist and media personality Carol McGiffin, the former Conservative London mayoral candidate Sean Bailey, and the writer and broadcaster Amy Nicol. Now, Amy, look, I just wanted to show you, because you did ask me about the Andrew thing. You said, oh, I've never done an angry monologue about Andrew. Can we just have a look at this? Let's just have a look at this, because I've put this together to make the point. Oh, there. Angry monologue.
OK, that's one.
Angry monologue about Andrew.
Where are the other 3, 4, 5?
Amy, the point of this is to make out to you that I have actually spent 10 years writing about the poisoned prince, and if it wasn't for the British press, and not just me, lots of the newspapers that I've worked for, their absolute focus on exposing Prince Andrew, no one, by the way, would have even known about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. They wouldn't have even known.
I absolutely commend you on that. That is excellent work. I just wish you would give it the same weight as you did.
Well, I have over the course of 10 years.
You have said there's been an orgy of victimhood. She's a narcissist. She's destroyed the royal family. She's insulted the family, the legacy of the Queen. She's a massive diplomatic embarrassment.
Yes.
Can you just
stand by it all?
Reframe that and redirect it at Prince Andrew.
You do realise Prince Andrew is languishing in a cottage shamed on the Windsor estate, largely because of the revelations from the press, you know?
The language you use about these
And by the way,
people
Prince Andrew isn't doing
is really,
6-hour
really
Netflix
different. But he did do a 1-hour news night, which meant mildly not as remarkable.
Yes, and again, I wrote article after article about it, column after column after it. I did on my old radio show, which, by the way, ended up in him losing his job and the royal family. Now, for the last couple of hours, nurses have been heading back into hospitals after their historic day of strike action. Despite lives being put at risk during the 12-hour walkout, the Royal College of Nursing are preparing to wreak havoc all over again on Tuesday. And its General Secretary, Pat Cullen, has already warned that strikes may continue into January, which has prompted hospital leaders to warn even end-of-life care could be impacted. She made it clear today that she was not budging from her inflation-busting 90% pay demand.
It's up to this government. They have a responsibility to actually address those 50,000 vacant nursing posts and stop the drain out of our profession. How are they going to do that? They need to do that by paying the nurses a decent wage. They are not being greedy. They are asking for the 20% that has been taken out of their pay over the last decade to be put back in and to make sure that they can continue and care for their patients.
Also today, lefty rag The Daily Mirror gave a leg up to the unions on their front page by claiming that only decent people support the strike action. So I guess, Carol, what the Daily Mirror is saying is that I'm not decent because I think nurses should be at work saving lives. I think it's the Hippocratic Oath, is it not?
Of course it is. This is so typical of a left-leaning newspaper, obviously. Like, if you criticise anything that they think is good, you're a murderer, you know, not a decent person. It's the same when, you know, people were choosing not to take the vaccine. And it is the same because they were accusing everybody of being granny killers and everything else. And now look what's happening with the nurses going on strike at the worst possible time. And I would argue that the NHS is possibly in a worse state now than it has ever been. And even during COVID and all of that stuff, I think it's in such a shocking position now. And they're on strike. Everybody needs more money. Everyone wants more money. There is no more money. Just get on with your job. Let's get the country back on its feet, and then there'll be more money for everybody.
And remembering, Sean, nurses did have a pay rise when every other public sector worker had a freeze. And what they're asking for, 19%, is 5% above inflation. It's not a reasonable request.
There's three things to be said here. Firstly, the Mirror is not a newspaper; it's a political magazine. It's a stated aim to get it's a stated aim to get a Labour government. And actually, what they're doing, they're one of the chief problems we have in this country about polarising people. The other big problem we have is because we have canonised public services, it means we can't have proper debates about them. The NHS receives a huge sum of money, and let's be clear, it's not from the government, it's from the public. That's the important part. At some point, we'll have to look at not just nurses, the whole of the pay structure in our public services and what we can and cannot afford. And thirdly, Conservative MPs are right. The government do need to get around the table and talk to nurses. Let's be clear, they're not rolling around in money. Yes, nurses do get paid more than average salary levels in this country, but clearly they're not rolling in it.
No.
And there is an argument, a very strong argument, that they should be paid more.
But
and the
if
government,
they were being reasonable.
But the government can't accuse them of not being reasonable until it's been round the table. 19% is where they want to start. Yes, that's very high, but let's have a negotiation first. And the last thing I'll say is, anybody, Keir Starmer, Sadiq Khan, I asked him this morning in my question time, anybody who does not give you a figure of what they'll be prepared to pay nurses is making political gain. Talk about what you'll pay them, because this isn't about the government versus nurses, it's about what the public
Well, indeed,
can afford.
I've been asking every lefty on my panel this week, Amy, would you give the nurses a 19% pay increase?
Of course.
Even Benjamin Butterworth wouldn't commit to that.
Sit here and vilify nurses and blame them for this situation.
Well, no. But do you vilify folk like me? Am I not... OK, let me ask you this. Am I not a decent person because I don't think nurses should strike? Just like, by the way, I don't think police should be able to strike, which they're not allowed to do.
I don't feel like you're thinking it through, because it would really be...
Don't patronise me.
Would I? It would really be irresponsible for the nurses to not go on strike. There is...
What? People are going to die today!
Well, I would say how I'd work that out if I was allowed to finish a sentence.
Sorry, I just think that statement is so outrageous, but OK, go on.
Currently, the NHS, before the strike, was in crisis. There is mass vacancies that need to be filled. These aren't going to be filled if the current rate of pay is a real terms pay cut, which has been coming over the past 10 years. It's not an appealing job. You're not going to fill those vacancies. At the moment, it's irresponsible for nurses to work in the way they are because one nurse is doing the job of 3 on average.
Would you feel the same?
Which is endangering
Amy, would you feel
patients.
the same? Would you feel the
So
same
if
if
you
one
care
of
so
your
much about
relatives
patients-
was denied life-saving cancer treatment today?
That's not what's happening, and you know that.
Well,
They're
it
putting
absolutely
on
is what's happening.
It is what's happening.
They're putting on a Christmas Day
Yeah,
service.
but at a time, Carol, when there's already backlogs in the NHS, more than we've had
Okay.
in years.
Well, let's look at Scotland. Scotland have managed to avoid these strikes.
Well, for now they have.
Hold on.
For now they
How have
have.
they done that?
But Amy's doing what the Mirror are trying to do. They're presenting a very complicated situation in very simple terms. Just be clear, the NHS in Scotland is in a utter mess.
Trouble.
Utter mess.
But the fact
so they're not a good model to copy.
their government have avoided this strike happening by getting around a negotiation
Well, yeah, but they haven't given them
with
the pay rise.
unions. And that's something
They have
that,
delayed
that's
the
something
strikes.
that our government doesn't seem capable
Amy's
of doing.
correct. Amy's correct about that. But I want to be very clear. I'm the one calling for the government to get round the table. But Amy has to be careful because the Scottish NHS is in a mess. So yes, they may have paid their nurses more, but what have they sacrificed to do that? This is a complicated situation that needs to be talked about properly.
The nurses deserve our support. Do not vilify
Yes, they do. They do deserve
Don't
our.
go into
I'm sorry.
that.
I'm sorry. I love nurses. I don't support them today. I don't support the striking nurses today. People can vilify me for that, but I think it is highly irresponsible. And actually, my gut feeling is that most folk at home agree
If
with
anyone's
me.
being highly irresponsible,
My gut feeling
it's
is most
the
folk at home
government
agree
who
with
could
me
stop these
because
strikes.
it's already
And
hard
you know
enough
that.
in this country to get medical treatment after the NHS became the NCS, the National COVID Service. And what nurses are doing today makes it worse. I agree, nurses deserve a pay rise, not 19%. They have to be reasonable and they have to stop walking off the job. I
This is
just
what
feel so
happens
strongly
after
about it.
10 years of austerity, not this
Amy
National
Nicole.
COVID Service. It was worse
Sean
before
Bailey,
that.
Carol McGiffin. We're not in austerity, Amy.
Oh, but we still
we've
need
given
work.
31% more to the NHS. It's a bottomless pit of funds. Now, look,
Record
coming up,
levels of
Managed to bail
it's
out
the
the
head of the
banks.
British monarchy versus the head of British anarchy, Mick Lynch, in tonight's Greatest Britain versus Union Jackass. I'll reveal my final winner and loser of the week at 10:50. But first, are the Sussexes right to shift the blame off of Meghan for Harry's exit from the royal family? TV hard man Ant Middleton, he's not so sure, and he's joining me live and uncancelled in just 2 minutes' time, so don't go anywhere.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here. You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us. We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing. You see, amazing.
You remind me of the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
It's time now for Uncancelled. And this is where Britain's top commentators speak out on controversial issues without the fear of the cancel culture sweeping the rest of the media. And my next guest is all about taking personal responsibility. So is it right that the Sussexes have shifted the blame off Meghan for Harry's exit from the royal family? Watch.
When a guy falls in love with a girl, his buddies are like, oh my God, he changed. I don't see him anymore. He's always with her. And you blame the girl. He wouldn't have ever been attracted to or interested in me if he hadn't already been on his own path. Most people need to find someone to blame. To try to reconcile how you're feeling, because something's changed and it doesn't feel good and you don't like it, and what's the thing that's different? Well, it's all changed when you got here. So it's your fault.
Oh, and Middleton, I've been desperate to talk to you about this all day because she's just completely misrepresenting actually how they became a couple, the fact she was looking for a very famous man. What do you make of her spin here, Ant?
Do you know what? The victim card there is sickening. You know, it's people have seen through her, the British public has seen through her, the monarchy have seen through her, and what's the defence mechanism that comes up straight away is blame culture, victim mentality, poor me, it wasn't me, it was someone else. And Meghan's got her ear, her poisonous tongue, so far down Harry's ear that he can't think for himself. When you hear Harry, and I've been watching the documentary, and to the point where you sort of wince, when you sort of cringe and you think that's not coming from him, that's blatantly coming from her.
Yeah.
And it's been coming from her for a while. And then you've got the far left media that are jumping on board, using the race card, using the victim card. They're using all of this wokeness in order to sort of justify why they've been ousted from the monarchy. And they're just doing themselves no favours. I have a soft spot for Harry. He's served in the military. He's done his duty. From what I know and from what I've heard, with in the military days, he was a good soldier. He was a good man. He was one of the boys. He liked to laugh. And to completely turn against his family, who have protected him, who have brought him up, who have given him this privileged lifestyle, in my eyes, for a woman, is inexcusable.
Do you feel like Harry is emasculated now?
Oh, Harry's been taken by the left, by the far left. He's been taken by Meghan. Like I said, her poisonous tongue has really whipped him and lashed him into what he's saying now.
Because she was sort of saying, wasn't she, Ant, though, that he was already going down this path, and actually he wouldn't have even dated me if he wasn't already going down this path.
The thing about Meghan, I don't know. So I don't like to badmouth people, but we know Meghan is a social climber. We've known that from the beginning. And she's got her prince. She thought that she was going to be this big princess, and and they all go through it. Look at Kate. She went through it first of all. She stood her ground because she stayed true to who she was, and her true colours came out. Meghan straight away got questioned, and again, bang, that victim card came out. Look at me, poor me. And she's got what she's wanted ultimately. And now she's pulled Harry away from her family and from that lifestyle. She's going to go on this journey. We're not going to see the end of her. She's going to milk this until the cows come home. So, stand by for a lot of incoming from Meghan. And I just feel for Harry, I really do. He's caught in between this feud between her and his brother and his father.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what you thought about the William situation, because I have to be honest, Anne, I don't feel sorry to Harry because he has allowed himself to be manipulated like this. But I really feel for William, right? Because he was such a loyal brother to Harry for so many years. Through all of those scandals, the Nazi uniform, the P-word racism scandal in the army, when Harry took drugs, time and again, William was Harry's rock.
They protected him to the hilt. But, what I do understand is, women and love can really, really have a real positive effect on you and a real good emotional effect on you, or it can have the complete opposite, like a toxic, sort of negative take on you as well. And I just feel that he's really been taken down that route. And it's not that I feel sorry for him, but he's really been sort of lusted off and, taken down a road that he doesn't want to go down. You can see that he doesn't want to be there sometimes. And what's coming out of his mouth, again, I'm a good judge of character, and I'm not saying, it's the gospel, but you can tell that he doesn't really want to say these things. But they've almost gone too far where they can't now come back. They have to stick to a narrative. They have to look at the people they're using around them. They are using people around them as much as they're being used for this narrative, to keep this narrative going, to keep this story going of the victim mentality. We've been outed. And you look at Meghan, Meghan talks about the monarchy like she knows that she's been in there for decades.
I know.
She was there
for 5
for a couple of minutes.
Totally.
Exactly.
Do you know what?
And
Middleton.
So why is she talking about the monarchy like she knows it?
Couldn't agree more. And I have to say, your analysis, spot on. I knew you would have something fascinating to say on this. I loved that. Thank you so much. Special Forces hero, no-nonsense TV star Ant Middleton. Thanks, Ant. We'll speak soon. But it's time now to reveal today's greatest Britain and Union jackass. So, McGiff, who's your GB nominee?
My greatest Britain today is Andrew Bridgen for speaking up in the Houses of Parliament and forcing a debate on vaccine harms.
Yes, he was our winner yesterday, actually. So can he do it 2 days in a row? We'll see. Sean Bailey, from me.
Mine is King Charles. Hear me out. After the release of this latest episode of the documentary, he must just be in bits. His 2 sons are at each other's throat. His family's fallen apart. And just from one father to another, I'd just like to encourage him to hang in there and do his best to bring it all back together.
Great words. Amy Nicole.
Mine is the nurses. Because they cared for us.
Just to wind me up.
Throughout the pandemic.
Just to wind me up. I'm going to go with King Charles, though.
Them.
Beautiful words from Sean, and I think everyone feels for him as a father today, absolutely. Union jackass time, though. Carol, quickly.
Well, it's every MP that didn't attend the vaccine harms debate that Andrew Bridgen brought to the House of Commons.
Shame on them. And there were none of them there, really, Carol, literally. Sean Bailey, your nominee?
Mine is RMT, Mick Lynch. They've cancelled Christmas for many of us. God. And most importantly, we've had businesses now who are struggling back from the pandemic. They've managed to survive this. And his belligerent, politically motivated strikes are about to kill those businesses off.
Mick Grinch, I call them. Amy Nicole, your nominee?
It would be whoever made that graphic of Mick Lynch, but no, it's Jonathan Gollis MP, humanitarian guy who wants to deport migrants even when judges rule against it on human rights.
Well, no, he wants us to leave the ECHR, which is a very sensible thing, which I fully support.
Everyone to Rwanda.
But do you know what? I am going to go with McGiff on this. I think the MPs that snubbed the vaccine harms debate, so wrong. You've got folk in your constituency who are struggling as a result of this. Can we just stop pretending, McGiff, that this is not an issue, that this is not a thing? The government is actually paying out the money. That blew my mind.
It speaks volumes, doesn't it?
It does. But Carol McGiffin, Sean Bailey, Amy Nicole, fabulous superstar panel. Thank you so much. Thank you for your company all week. I'm back Monday at 9 p.m. Headliners is up next, though. Good night.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prison.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed. So I guess they've always been quite woke. That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
My name's Tom Harwood, and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the